All right, so for motivation techniques, we're looking at some things now that you've kind of read and looked over a bunch of the motivation theories. We're looking at some of the things that people do, the way they apply those theories. All right, so management by objective is one of those, or MBO, and what it does is it's implementing goal setting theory. Because if you remember, goal setting theory says that employees are motivated to achieve goals that they have input on. And so MBO is just a way that we collaborate in setting goals with employees. Okay, so the whole idea would be that I might provide you with the organization's goals, and I say, please develop some goals for yourself that will work towards achieving these organization goals. And so I ask you to develop some goals, and then we meet together and we go over those goals and clarify and make sure that everybody is on board and knows exactly what your goals are and how those play into the organization's goals. So it increases that motivation by giving you an active role in your goal setting and performance evaluation. All right, so that's MBO. Job enrichment and enlargement and redesign just are ways that we say, look, we realize that the job's boring, and so we're going to try to fix that. We're going to try. Enrichment says that we're going to give you some sort of responsibility in the job to give you more buy-in, ownership of it. Enlargement says that we're going to entrust you with more things to do. All right, instead of just doing one or two things, we're going to give you 3 or 4 things to do. Job redesign says, look, we realize that maybe this job doesn't fit you the best, and so we're gonna take away the parts that don't fit you and give you some parts that better fit you. And so we redevelop or redesign that job to meet the skills that you have. Behavior modification is an implementation of reinforcement theory, and so what we're saying is we recognize some behaviors that we either want to encourage to happen more often, or behavior that we want to get rid of and stop happening. And so it's a program of reinforcement to encourage whatever our desirable behavior is. So we could let's say I wanted you to bring a book to class, so I start rewarding you for bringing your book to class until everyone brings their book to class. All right, or punishing for certain things. So that's behavior modification. We're trying to change the behaviors that are being exhibited, and until we get to the behavior that we want to be exhibited. Flexible scheduling. All right, so this is when we allow people to come and go from work. We might have, for example, here at Blinn, my workers have the freedom to come and go as long as they put in their hours each week, and as long as they're at their specified time when they have to be here. Okay, if you have a class scheduled, you have to be at that class. However, let's say you have 2 classes in the morning and you don't have any classes in the afternoon. You can choose to come in at 6 a.m. and leave at 3 p.m. each day. So you have some flexibility to change your schedule to meet your needs. Compressed work week would say that we're going to get all of our work. There's a lot of different ways you can do a work week. One, what they're saying here is we compressed it, so we're letting you do 40 hours in 4 days. So you're going to work 4 10s instead of 5 8s. Okay. Some places do. You work 4 days, 4 12s this week, and next week you work 3 12s. And there's a lot of different ways you can do that, where you can get in your 40 hours. Some places do 9 9s, and so what they do is you work basically every other Friday you have off. You work 9-hour work days, and then you just have every other Friday off. And so there's a lot of variations on how you can get your work weeks in, and provide some flexible scheduling, which again is motivating because you're working with employees and providing for their needs. The biggest thing in motivation is that a happy and satisfied worker is will perform better. All right, they'll be more productive, and so we want to motivate you and create an environment where you're happy and satisfied, so that we'll get more productivity out of you. Job sharing or part-time work. So part-time work can be if the idea here is maybe you had someone who was full-time who is going part-time, and so it allows you to still hang on to those people. Job sharing would be where two people share one job, one full-time position. That can be difficult because depending on the position, it might not be easy to divide the work, or it might be hard for workers to hand off what they're doing. So it might be hard to find a good stopping point for the other person to pick up from. Telecommuting, so working all or some of the time from home. You can get increased productivity. I will say that, however, you need to make sure that you have the right fit for your workers. All right, so don't just one of the things that companies do sometimes is they look down here and they're like, oh, lower real estate and travel expense, so we don't need more. This is a way for us to cut costs. Well, some of your workers aren't going to prefer telecommuting. For example, I would not do well at telecommuting. I find a whole host of things to get distracted by at home, and so I prefer to come to the office and work. However, some people really love telecommuting, and they can get a lot done at home, and so those workers, it would be a benefit for them and would be motivating. You can feel some of the disadvantages is people can feel isolated. Like I mentioned, I get distracted at home, and it's really hard to monitor when they're working and how much work they're actually getting done, in terms of if you're the company. And then empowerment just says that giving employees the ability to have a say in how they're doing things. So being more participatory with them in decision making and how they work and how they do their job and what their standards are. It requires a lot more communication and regular checkup with your employees to make sure things are going well. But if it's working, then it creates the job satisfaction and higher self-esteem, which are good things because it creates happy and satisfied workers. Employee ownership is another one. Some companies give their employees ownership in the company by giving them stock, and the idea here is if you're a stock owner, you actually own a part of the company. Your stock goes up when the performance of the company goes up, and so you're motivated to perform better because you have ownership in this, and the better it performs, the better your compensation becomes. All right, so that's the motivation techniques that companies are currently using, implementing some of those classical and contemporary motivation theories that we talked about.